Hey RCT. I am redoing the intro. It appears some of the video and the audio was cut in the original video I was recording. This video is about how I pick a radio, what I specifically look for in a radio in order to pick that radio for an event or detail or an outing activity. And the main part of it was cut out in the video, so I want to quickly recap. Besides the function and performance of a radio, how I pick a radio. Jumping right into it, I didn't want to redo the entire video because the next part of the video it has a lot of the information that I believe is how I pick a radio and how you may want to evaluate a radio when you're picking it. So I'm going to leave that video in. It's going to play directly after this video, but again, this is how I typically pick a radio for an activity. It depends where I'm going, how far I'm going, how much power I need, or who I need to talk to specifically. And that's where it really comes for the understanding of how you can talk to someone. So, for example, if you have business band radios, you're limited to talking to someone on business frequencies. Business frequencies, are more for, let's just say you're at work at a warehouse and you have a radio and you take it with you on the weekend to Knott's Berry Farm or Disneyland, and you take a pair. You can only talk to each other, can't really hear anybody else because those frequencies are set specifically for just those radios. Now, if you pick a radio, obviously like a Baofeng, this is where you can actually program it to hear and talk to more than a business band or GMRS frequency. So in this case, again, who do you want to talk to? Is it just one-on-one you want to talk to? Is it just these two radios you want to communicate? Or do you want to be able to communicate with a few other radios? So, but again, besides the performance of a radio, I typically look at a radio and see how I can handle that radio in the field. And the reason why I say how I handle it is how it fits in my hands and how can I manage it in my hands. For example, let's look at Motorola. So again, I'm a Motorola fan. I don't really have Kenwood or anything else here, but let's consider when using a Motorola radio, you're commonly going to have your PTT on the side, your push to talk. You're going to have your volume, your channel, and then your antenna. Okay, now think of this. If you are in a, let's just say in my situation, working for a security company or a security detail, your dominant hand, which is your left or right hand, in my case it's my right hand, needs to be free at all times, right? So let's just say your dominant hand is going to be used for pepper spray or a GON. I don't think I can say that word on here, but let's just say you carry a GON, it's on your right side. Okay, you want to be able to use the radio with your left hand and still defend yourself with your right hand. Again, whether it's a baton or a taser or a GON or any other sort of defense equipment, you want to use that with your right hand. Now your left hand, you are going to want to be able to communicate, and that's how I generally pick a radio, is how I can use the radio with one hand. Okay, for example, if you can see here, I can change the channels with one hand, right? And I can communicate with one hand. Okay, push the emergency button with one hand if I need to. If it's a radio, let's just say this one, I can still change the channels, the volumes on this side. In my case, I have to reach over the antenna to manage the radio, right? So look at this one again. This one's small enough that I don't think it's going to be an issue. But again, I don't know if this is a radio you'd be using in those type of situations, but let's just say you do. This is a radio they give you for your security company, and your right hand is your dominant hand, and you need to communicate, you can do that with this, right? Okay. That's how I typically pick a radio. For example, let's look at an FRS radio. All right. I mean, a little more difficult to manage, because with this radio you have to, I think, hit the menu, and then you change the channel. Then you have to, right? Then you can key up. Again, I don't know if this would be a radio I would use all the time in the field. This is a radio I generally use at home. It's easy to use. It's set in stone. Can't really mess it up too much, right? Let's see. This one is typically one you would have at a business site, a warehouse, a mall. I've seen some prisons use this. I think I was watching 60 Days In, and I saw one of the departments using this radio, which is fine. It's a DMR, and I can manage this, okay, with one hand, change the channels. I don't have to reach over the antenna. It still fits in the palm of my hand. I wouldn't generally have to use these options, but if I did, I can still manage it with one, right? So that's typically how I pick a radio, depending on where I'm going to go. These Astro Savers, that's another thing I want to explain. The second video that I'm going to be playing in a few minutes is an older video. I really didn't have this collection with me then, and now I do, so you'll see a few different radios, but same practice, how I pick a radio. Obviously, these Saber radios are pretty large. These are pretty obsolete. These are great for ham radio. These are great for anything else other than obviously urgent need for communication. Haven't really tested these out, but these are pretty cool. I mean, these are 80s radios, and these are in really good condition, so excuse me. All right. That's pretty much how I would pick a radio based on, I guess, the cosmetics or the functions or performance, other than, who you can talk to, who you can communicate, what radio can scan, what radio can't. Most of these radios can scan, even this tiny on. I think you can scan. Oh, there you go, starts to scan. That's pretty much it. I don't want to go around in circles. I don't want to take up dead space, but this is generally how I would pick a radio if I can use it with one hand. For example, let's see. So again, I'm right-handed, so anytime I use a radio, I generally would have it on my left side of my belt clip, and I would pull this out of my belt clip, swing it around, and then use it, right? If I'm using my right hand, again, so I'm going to have to reach over, adjust the volume, and go back and talk to them, change the channel. Okay. Same thing with this one. The antenna's on the other side, so if I'm right-handed, it'll be easy to, well, not right-handed, but left-handed dominant. You would reach over like you would in this case. Okay. This one's going crazy. I think it's dying. But pretty much that's how I would pick a radio. Depends on how I would have to handle it. Other than that, I'll play the next video, and you'll see a few other ways I generally pick a radio. Again, based on the band, if it's UHF or VHF, and who I would want to talk to and who I would want to hear. Again, do I want a GMRS? Do I want a FRS radio and hear anyone else talk or try to reach someone else? Or if your friend has another FRS and you want to jump on the same channel, or if you want to do the same thing with a GMRS radio. Okay, so you can both say, let's go on channel, whatever, 19. Okay. And again, with these other radios, depending on how you have it programmed, you may not be able to talk to them, right? So if these are pre-programmed to business bands or specific channels, if you don't have your PL set, you may be able to talk to them if you have FRS set to them or GMRS set to them. And that's how a lot of these old commissioned radios are used now, is FRS, GMRS. I really don't see these in business or business settings. I don't really see a warehouse buying a bunch of XTS 3000 using them, or 5000s. And 5000s, you can find a lot of these on eBay, but they're 800 megahertz, and you're not supposed to be using 800 megahertz. So I mean, if you buy a VHF or UHF, I mean, that's pretty awesome, because you can program this to talk to an FRS or GMRS or business band, and that's a pretty cool way to use a radio. The other functions that it has, not so much. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, the XTS 3000 has a status feature where you can send your status, and I think you need a console for this to work. And without the console, it's pretty much useless from what I understand. So it doesn't really do much. You can't send the signal. So I mean, it's cool to have in here programmed, but it won't do much unless you have the proper programming or proper equipment. You can call. You can definitely page. You can call. You can't really send messages either. Same thing. You can set messages. You can't text on this one. I think you can text on the 5000, but they'll have to be set up a certain way. These, I think they come with encryption. This one you have to add a card for encryption, similar to the 15 and the 2500s back there. This one's a DMR, so I've seen DMR used on ham radio now, which is pretty cool. So that's kind of getting up there. Other than that, you can use analog, you can use DMR. DMR and P25 do not match, but again, why would you want to take this one? Do you have someone else that has DMR? Do you have the same frequency, same channel, the same color setup? Then great, you can take this one and talk to them. If not, again, I would stick to FRS, GMRS, and I may want to program a 3000 to FRS or GMRS and make it look pretty cool versus a TalkPod. TalkPod is not a bad radio. I posted a video of testing it, and it did well, but it's cool. It's tiny, but it doesn't look cool like a 3000 or a 5000 or an XPR, right? So again, that's just my rambling. Go ahead and watch the rest of the video, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions, comments, or any feedback. Again, this is just my option, or my opinion, excuse me, of how I pick a radio, and hopefully it helps you pick your radio. Appreciate it. I'll play the next video. Thanks. This is Radio Check coming at you with a video on how to pick your radio. So this video is going to tell you how to pick a radio and what exactly you need. But I'm not going to do that, because there is no way for me to tell you what you need specifically. I wanted to take a minute to make a video on the difference of the radio, or how to pick your radio, more of a guide of picking your radio. I'm seeing a lot of posts and videos and photos of what radio is better for you, or what's best for you to use. It really doesn't make sense, because it just really depends on you as the radio operator on finding and picking the right radio. There's all sorts of radios out there, you know, and each radio depends on what you need to use it for. If you're a family looking for radios to keep in touch, FRS is a good way to go, especially if you have young ones with you. FRS, you can't go wrong with that. You can find those at Target, Walmart, wherever it is. You can find them at your local store. They can range between, I mean, for a pair now I've seen them around $50. Even the cheapest ones I've seen. So it just really depends again. So I'm going to go through a few things of how I pick a radio, and you might want to adapt on how I select a radio for a certain reason. Now, the radios I have in front of me, I've actually just gathered out of purpose for either for work or hobby. Most of these I see them online, and I just buy it just to kind of see how it works, if it's better than the other, are there better features, is it easier to use. Now, jumping right into this, we all are really familiar with the Baofeng, and the Baofeng again is one of those radios that they're pretty inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them pretty much anywhere now online. I've seen them at a few shows, radio shows and survival shows, as in local gun shows or survival shows. So just to kind of pick a detail out of this, it's fairly easy to use if you know how to use one of these. I mean, this is really, I would say, a little bit more difficult to understand this radio versus a FRS radio or a GMRS radio. So a GMRS radio obviously is going to be pre-programmed already with the channels that you can use. It's going to be pre-programmed with the amount of wattage you can use. So this is something that if you're not a fan of FRS, this is the way to go, provided you have your license, because you do need a license to use GMRS. Now, if you were to get an FRS radio from Walmart or Target or your local store, they have a few GMRS channels built into that. I believe it's 1 through 14 as FRS. So it's definitely not going to be outlined like the Coterie, whatever you want to call this. It's not going to be outlined. It is going to be there for you to push and talk, but it's not going to be outlined. So it's the advantage is you can change your channels. You have your emergency button. You can program here. However you want to customize it, it would be better. As the XTS 3000 or XTS 1500 wouldn't be as good as this one, because you can text on this one, you can't text on this one. You can do analog digital, you can analog digital. You can scan. So however you want to set it up, there's just a few different features from one to the other that you may want. So keep that in mind. So that's pretty much my way of picking a radio. Again, these are my reasons to pick a radio, depending on where I'm going to go, who I need to talk to, how I need to talk to them. My 3000 is typically set up for FRS, GMRS, my local AMR, DPS. I mean, it has several zones that I actually programmed, and so this would be my radio in case I want to talk to someone, in case I want to listen to someone, in case I need a, whatever the case is, this is going to be my go-to radio as far as communication. So, do I want to take this one because it's smaller sometimes? Sure, I do, but then I'm only limited to GMRS, FRS frequencies or channels, right? Or I can take this one where I can front panel program, but it's not going to be rugged. It's going to be tiny and discreet and small and light, but it's not going to be rugged. Like if I drop it, it's going to break. If I yell at it wrong, it's going to break. So just be mindful of what radios you choose for. I don't have any FRS radios here. As far as the small ones you get at Target or Walmart to show you, but they would generally be like this. Not as you wouldn't have the buttons here. You definitely wouldn't have the options to change power, your wattage. You won't be able to put any DCS codes. It does have quiet codes, but that's about it. And then, of course, I'm just showing off my XTS 2500. This is supposed to be comparable to a 5000, but I guess we can leave that for a different rate or a different video. So, but it depends on what you want to use. Again, FRS, VHF, DMR, or analog. I mean, all of these radios here, they can use analog, and you can essentially communicate with each other if it's the right frequency and the right tone. But they don't all have the same features. So again, let me know if this helps. I'm trying to think of other reasons why I would pick a radio. Of course, even CB radio. I picked this up on eBay for just a vintage radio. I put the batteries in there, but I think it's a little rusted in there, so I need to open it up and use it. But CB radio would be cool to take on a road trip. If you're on a road trip and you want to listen to the truckers, this would be something to take with you. You definitely won't be able to find a radio that has CB radio and FRS and VHF unless you have a multi-band, but multi-band radios don't have CB radios. I mean, CB radios, I think we kind of just left back there. They just recently came out with, I think, FM CB radios, and most of these older ones are AM, so you got that echoey sound on the CB radio, but they're still used out there. I don't know how much talk there is. I've seen a few videos that CB radios are dead or they're going away because FRS and GMRS stepped up, and that might be true. But I'm pretty sure there's still some out there using CB radio, and these are always kind of neat to just kind of listen to or use or you just have with you. So, but I mean, even this one, check this out. I mean, this is such a big PTT. I love that. Look how big it is. Push here and I can talk, push here, push here. So you don't have to be dedicated to a small little area when you need to talk. That's awesome. And of course, your volume and your channels. I don't know how many channels this has, but 40 channels obviously is typically CB radio, but with this one I think you just went, I don't know if you can focus. All right, come on. Right there. So this is obviously an older, very old CB radio, older than the ones that we had at Radio Shack. If you ever had a Radio Shack TRC CB radio, I think it came with a channel knob or the buttons to go up and down, kind of like the bell thing. You press up and down for CB radio channel 1 through 40. But this one, what's cool is that you actually just kind of push it to the right, and then it comes back. So you just go up, 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 or down, down, down. And that's pretty cool. And of course your volume and your squelch. Your squelch, we all know what, I don't want to keep saying we all know what that is because maybe not everyone does. But your squelch is that noise, that white noise that you get. And the higher you put the squelch or the lower, the more you can hear out there. So let's just say you have a squelch of, you put your squelch all the way up, which it might be different because, let's see, this one has, maybe I can save this for a different video, but just quickly, squelch, you have squelch level 1. If you were to change that to 0, this is what you get. If you go to 1, you don't hear anything. And then if you go to all the way to, 9 or 10? 9. You're telling the radio, don't unmute unless it's a really strong signal. So that's what the squelch on the CB radios were typically used for. Come on, focus. So, and then power high-low. And then your BNC connector for your antenna. All right, well, thanks for watching. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this on YouTube or just on the gram. Obviously, I hope to open a YouTube soon. That way I can spend a little bit more time on the videos and provide a little bit more information from what I know. I like to share what information I have. I learn as well, and I kind of go along the way and learn and pick other people's brains and discover things for myself. But hopefully I can open up a YouTube channel soon and provide my feedback, my opinion. Ultimately, this channel for YouTube will be more of just my opinion, my views, my experience. By no means am I an expert. I'm not a, I don't make radios. I don't put radios together. I pretty much take one, I dissect it, I learn, and then I just pass on the information. So just like this, I've have all these radios here for certain reasons. I pick one up and I see how this one works, and I think maybe a different one's going to work out better. But here's my opinion. Don't use this for security, okay? I just invest a little bit more money in DMR or a better Motorola or Kenwood radio. Don't use Baofengs. My opinion is it looks a little tacky. Okay, it looks a little tacky. They don't look professional. They don't sound professional. I mean, they're good radios. Don't get me wrong, they're good radios. I don't think they're for security. I don't think they're for. I used to work for a security company, and it was a little mom and pop security company, and I saw a bunch of these on their inventory, and I was like, why would you go with a Baofeng, especially with the little antenna? I know they're going to communicate just short distance, but come on, when you're working for a security company, don't you want to use something that you can't really, interfere with? Don't you want to go with DMR or P25 if you have the money to go pick up a few P25 and you have less interruption? Again, I'll say this for a different video, but P25 recently was accessible. Wasn't always accessible by scanners. You have to buy a certain scanner to pick up digital radio, digital P25 or DMR. And so that kind of gave you a sense of added privacy or encryption or protection, because not everybody's going to listen to P25. And I, other than our mother, father, FCC, no one's really going to pick up on DMR or P25. They'll definitely pick up on FRS and GMRS because that's analog, and every scanner can pick that up, or any FRS radio can pick up analog. But if you're going to go with P25 or DMR, less chances for someone to hear what you're saying. And if you're a security company using Baofeng, my opinion is it's not going to go well. Someone's going to hear what you're saying. They're going to be able to interfere. Again, I'll save this for another video, but I've done it, and I'm sure everyone else has done it. You get your scanner and you use close call. You find out the frequency and the tone, and now you have access to the radio. And some knucklehead, some clown is going to go out there and start interfering with other businesses and communications. And why even put yourself in that position? Again, this is why I pick a certain radio for certain things. Baofeng definitely wouldn't be for my, top secret project or security project or executive protection or communicating, private conversations. Absolutely go with P25, go with DMR. DMR is a little bit harder to pick up, and DMR, most radios come with some sort of a scramble. Again, I'll save this for another video. I hate saying that, but this radio has different scrambling features where you can actually set 10 different scramble options. And it's interesting because one time I changed one to one setting in another radio. I have two of these. I put the other one to a different scramble option, and I keyed up, and you couldn't hear. It really sounded really muffled, really scrambled. And again, that is a good feature to have if you're a security company, if you're executive protection. Obviously, if you're public safety, encryption comes with a whole different setting. Encryption comes with a whole different system or path. It's just a different path with encryption. And you can find encryption for your 3000s and your 5000s and your 2500s, and typically they come with AES or DES for the 3000. But if you don't have that option, this is why, again, it's really important to pick your radio on what you're going to use it for. So if I'm going to have a security detail or executive protection detail, I'm taking this one. As crappy as some people say it is, I have the option to put an encryption scramble on this that no one's going to be able to easily pick up, right? I mean, it's just right in front of you. You can program it through your radio, and you have some sort of privacy or encryption, right? If you want to, you're not going to find encryption on these, all right? I think the TalkPod did have a voice scramble in here, and again, I appreciate that. Let me see if I can zoom in. This TalkPod did come with some sort of a encryption or a scramble version. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. Voice privacy, right? Hit that. And then you have encryption 1, 2, 3. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. Right there. I mean, awesome. I mean, what radio comes with an encryption on a GMRS or FRS radio? I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but it comes with it. You have that option. So this could be another radio I would use if I needed to use it for executive protection or security detail or an escort. I mean, these have it. And then again, if you have the time, you have the patience, you have the money, you have the equipment. I say equipment because these are not easy to these 3000s and 5000s and the XTS series and even the Astro Saber, it's not easy to program. It's definitely isn't. With the 3000s, you need an XP radio. With the 5000s, you can use a Windows 10 or 11 now, I believe, but you need the software, you need the cable, and then you need to know how to do it. Especially if you're going to program the radio and encryption, that's a whole different lesson. So again, that's my options of how to select a radio. Hopefully this helps you. If you need help on picking a radio, feel free to reach out. If you don't need privacy, if you don't need anything big or fancy, go with FRS. They're easy, they're fun. It's a way to communicate. Talk to your kids in the room if you're in the kitchen or you're mowing the lawn. If you're going to be next door or they're going to be on their bike running around. I mean, yeah, they have their cell phones now, but radios are fun. Give your kids a radio. Guarantee you, whatever age, whoever it is, whatever gender, they're going to love the radio. Everybody loves radios. So get going with the radios. But thanks again for watching. Hopefully this comes out well. Hopefully this helps you in some way figure out what kind of radio you need or want or should use for certain jobs or certain details. This is in no way telling you which radio to get or not to get. These are just basically my recommendations, opinions, experience, how I've used radios. Maybe at a different time we'll go through a little bit more DMR radios, digital mobile radios. They have the XPR series that are kind of being sold everywhere now, and those are also great radios. But we'll keep venturing into this. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully this helps, and if it's on YouTube, like, comment, or subscribe, or whatever it is I'm supposed to say to help the ball rolling. So thanks again for your time, guys.
To the 964 northbound, 051 at Bell. Per the GPS, it's going to be in the Gore Point for the Bell off-ramp northbound, and the involved is stating he possibly has a broken arm, which I'm starting things fire for at 20 hours.